Lead and Empower Her with Dr. Julie Ducharme, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Lead and Empower Her with Dr. Julie Ducharme is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Dr. Julie Ducharme.
Hi, I'm Dr. Julie Ducharme. Welcome to the Hsieh CEO Talks. I love this podcast. This is where I get to interview women from around the world in CEO positions that are just changing the face of business where we're at. And I'm really excited today to have someone doing a really interesting entrepreneurship industry. But before I get started, a couple things I want to mention. Many of you are following our Hsieh Talks, Lead and Empower Her Hsieh Talks, and we have some amazing events coming up that I have to mention. We have added in that we will be in Honolulu, Hawaii on May 20th. We're going to be in Los Angeles partnering with the Women Gone Wild group in June. There's more info to come on that. We're going to also be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for a Women in Tech conference, Hsieh Talks, on November 10th. So you need to go to leadandempowerher.com and check out all the amazing things coming up. And I also have to mention, if you're going to go to Hsieh Talks on May 20th in Hawaii, you might as well come in a couple days earlier and do a 2-day workshop with us. It's called Unleashing Your Inner Power, a 2-day workshop retreat for women leaders. We are not only going to dive into some amazing topics, but at the same time, we're adding in some super fun excursions like luau's and going to the Dole Plantation and checking out the Cultural Polynesian Center. I mean, it's just going to be a really epic time for you to be at this. So go to our leadandempower.com website, click on Leadership Retreat, get all the info. That also includes a day at Hsieh Talks with us. So basically, you're getting 3 days of epic empowerment. And just another shout out as well to our sponsors. Milk Labs has been amazing, providing us with a delicious oatmeal that not only me, but so many of our Hsieh Talkers are hooked on and ordering a bunch of. We also love our Ally shoes from Ally Shoes. They are amazing. The only pair of heels I have ever worn that has not given me any blisters. Thank you to so many others who are supporting us. All right. So now let's get back into our podcast. Today, I want to introduce you to Hsieh. Ada, welcome to the show. It's so exciting to have you here. And you really have a really interesting story about what you're doing. Now, currently, you're obviously in the lipstick world, which I'll definitely be buying some of your lipstick because I love lipstick. But as I was reading your story, you started out more on the financial side and working in a very different industry. And I would love for you to tell our women about how you went from being this in this finance world to the lipstick world.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me, first of all. It's such an honor. So I actually fell into finance by chance. I was in college many, many years ago, and I just did not know what to major in. And so I just majored in business, just very general, like, okay, that's fine. And then I was looking for a job, and somebody was like, there's a temp position at JP Morgan. And that's where I started. From there, I just continued to go along the finance path. I worked at private equity firms and then ended up at hedge funds in Wall Street in New York City. And during that time, I always thought to myself, I'm just helping the rich become richer. Like that's not a real life goal of mine, There's no purpose in that for me.
Yeah.
So during that time, I actually fell in love with makeup as a hobby. So I took a bunch of classes on the side, and I fell in love with editorial and special effects makeup. So I loved Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, those like fantasy zombie makeup looks. I love doing those. And even fashion editorial is just a very, very creative process. And that for me was very mentally healing, and it was a creative outlet for me. And then from there, when you do special effects makeup, it's a lot of chemicals, you're dealing with waxes, different types of glue, acetone, things of that nature, and you're putting it onto your skin. So I was constantly having allergic reactions And then I just fell into this rabbit hole of looking up ingredients. And then one thing led to another. And then, as you probably already know, our day to day makeup is filled with toxins as well. And what really alarmed me was our lipsticks are one of the most toxic categories, and
Wow.
people don't realize that. So most consumers assume that because we are ingesting our lipsticks every time we eat and drink, and that's why we have to reapply our lipstick at the end of every meal, brands will, they assume that brands are using safe and sometimes edible ingredients, and they're not. It's
Wow.
completely like far from the truth. And a lot of lipsticks actually test positive for heavy metals such as lead and chromium. And more recently, it tested positive for PFAS, which is that really harmful forever chemical that it's called. It
Mm.
causes a lot of endocrine disruption, cancer, fertility issues in women. So it's very, very harmful. And we're just eating that, and studies have shown that lipstick wearers eat about 4 to 10 pounds of lipstick throughout their
Oh
lifetime,
my
and
gosh.
it just accumulates in
Wow.
their body.
That is like
Yeah,
disturbing to me right now.
so people don't realize this, and it was very personal to me just because of how my makeup journey was so spiritually and mentally healing. I didn't believe that we had to sacrifice our physical health in the name of beauty.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create something better, and
Yeah.
and there's no excuse in today's day and age with all the information that we have and all the resources that are available to us. There's just no excuse to make something better. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'll do it.
That's
And I just wanted to make something as plant-based, as edible as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm ignorant to this. Like, I'm thinking about the lipstick I'm wearing right now, and I'm like, "Oh my god, my lip's gonna fall off." Um, but that is a bit shocking to hear about the chemicals. And why I'm talking, I'm gonna tell our producer Josh here. Josh, on her website, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's these really cool pictures that she did that we need to show everyone.
Uh-huh.
That's the awesome like kind of designs. But I love that one, you figured this out, right? Like that you're in the midst of this. And what you're saying is very true. A friend of ours who owns Alpha Elite Performance, they actually have what's called a metal detox that
Oh
they
wow.
created actually for veterans, but it really can as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like, okay, could apply to every woman who's putting on makeup, who's putting on lipstick. Like that's shocking. Of the chemicals that we're using. And so I love that you found this alternative. And I too have very sensitive skin. So I'm very like always looking and same thing. I had to go on a lot of journeys to find stuff that didn't irritate it. My daughter is just like me. She has very sensitive skin. And the thought now of my daughter putting on lipstick and consuming this, at such a young age. So when you figured this all out and you decided to switch from obviously the industry you're in to now,
Mhm.
was that a difficult transition? Because and the reason I ask this is because when I decided to go from my industry into straight entrepreneurship, it was absolutely terrifying because I was like, am I going to be able to make the money? How do I make sure I, am able to take care of my family?
Yes.
And it was a difficult decision. And I know a lot of women in particular don't like they're not comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so when you decided to transition from working in the financial world to this that you're really passionate, how was that transition?
So for me, it was a little bit easier. I think it mainly was because I was so burnt out from working
Mm,
on Wall Street, where I was just like, I literally mentally cannot do this anymore.
mm,
So I will advise people to not do what I did and quit so quickly. I advise you to hold on to your job as long as possible until your startup is more stable and generating more consistent sales. But I just mentally could not do it anymore.
mm,
So I actually left and took a 2 month sabbatical. I traveled Europe, and during that time, I got so much inspiration from other parts of the world. And not only I think creatively, but also just business acumen wise, just to
Mhm.
kind of see how the rest of the world works outside of America. Because we're
Mhm.
so, in America, we're so intent on doing things
Yes.
our way.
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
really nice to see. I spent about a month in Spain, and I just saw how people, Europeans in general, just enjoy life,
Mm.
And I was toiling away every day at my cubicle in New York, and I was like, I just need to relax. And this is what life is about, enjoying
Yeah.
these moments, So that's where I kind of got that uh, mental shift, I think,
Yeah.
where I just started to relax a little bit.
And I really I agree with you and I appreciate that. Early on in my younger years, I got a chance to go to several different countries, and
Mhm.
we do live in like this American bubble where
Yeah.
Americans think like we are the best and we have the best way. And I learned so much. And of course, now my husband and I we intentionally make trips outside of the US. Last year we got to go to the Galapagos, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
so eye-opening for our children to get to just see people like living, and they weren't watching TV or playing video games, right? They were fishing in boats and they were just living life, and it was just so, like you said, inspiring,
Yeah,
where you're
definitely.
living, it was just so pure. And the
Mhm.
kids loved it. And I'm like, we just have to keep doing this because, as you said, there's so many great ways to do things.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
the US, even though has great ways, there are countries that have other great ways that we can learn
Yes,
from. And
agreed.
so healthy. When we were in the Galapagos, there was no plastic, right?
Oh,
Because I mean, it's a
wow.
very, you have the animals there were so interesting. They were just so like, hi, I'm gonna come on over here and hang out with you. And you're like, there's like a seal
Oh my
like
god, that's
sitting on
so
my lap right now. Um,
cute.
but it was such a like just inclusive atmosphere. These animals felt safe and it was
Yeah.
clean and healthy. And so I love that you did that because even though I had the same thing, I can definitely relate. I was burnt out with what I was doing.
Mhm.
I was just done. I was unhealthy because I was working
Yes.
24/7. I mean, my doctor was like, you have to quit your job. And I'm like, I can't quit my job. And she's like, you're so unhealthy, Julie. And
Yes.
I think us women, I was having this conversation with someone, we're very loyal when we
Mhm.
do something. I noticed that. And
Yes.
women will stick it out in a hostile, really negative environment
That's so
much
true.
longer because we're also problem solvers. We'll think, well, I can fix it. I
Oh
can
my god,
fix
you're
this.
so right.
Right? And it's like, I see women do this where guys are
Mhm.
just like, I'm out, right? And so we'll
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
fix it, and we're loyal, and then
Mhm.
we feel like very unsuccessful or a failure if we weren't able to fix that toxic
Yeah.
world or whatever we're in. And so, I always say I took years off of my life trying to prove something in an environment that was set up for me to fail in.
I know. Oh my
And so I think even though, you left your industry early, I
god.
mean,
Mhm.
that was great for you, right? Because that brought back
Yeah,
perspective and your health. Um, and
definitely.
the number two thing killing women in America is heart disease and heart attacks. And you
Oh,
don't think that,
wow.
but that's literally, I think sometimes we stress ourselves in to that.
We
And
do.
so, one, you're now going that your why, you're going after your passion, right?
Mhm.
What not
Mhm.
a better, like, I love that, right? That's the best job in the world because I totally don't mind working tons of hours if it is basically for a cause like what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Then it doesn't
So,
have to feel like work. Yeah.
yeah. So do you make your own lipstick? Did you come up with, how did you start coming up? Because it says here it's a bio-based lipstick made from renewable agricultural and marine sources. So obviously I don't want you to tell your secret recipe, but how in the world did you come up with renewable agricultural and marine sources? I'm so interested.
Yeah, so I love juicing, and I don't know if you've ever juiced before, but every time I use beets, it would just get everywhere and it would stain my
Mm,
countertops. You would have to wipe it off like super quick. So I was like, why can't we use beets and like for our lipstick? And
huh,
I started looking into vegetables. I started out in my kitchen trying to make everything myself, and Google is such a great resource.
huh.
And I got a C in chemistry in high school. So I did not know what I was doing. And I was experimenting so much in my kitchen, and it was just consistent failure. So to preface this, R&D took 4 years. It
Mm.
was not an easy journey. So I definitely had to look for outside help. Um, so I went through a bunch of contractor cosmetic chemists, and we finally just got some samples out that worked after 4 years.
Wow. I mean, but I'm glad that you mentioned that because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we think we have to do everything.
Yeah.
And probably one of the most important things is, if we have a brilliant idea, it's okay to bring in
Oh
support
my
for
God,
someone
totally.
who's that
Yeah.
person in that industry. I'm working on a prototype for a glove right now. I am not a seamstress. I
Yeah.
am not a designer. I'm not even close to it.
Yeah.
And so I've had to, like you, it's been a process of me working through different groups and peoples, and it's been a
Yes.
little slower,
Yeah.
but we're getting there. And especially if you're working on something that is going to be on someone's face, like you said, you want to do it right. You
Yeah.
don't want to put it out too early and someone's like lips blow up because it
Yeah,
wasn't right.
exactly. There's a lot of
But
testing
yeah.
that you have to do.
Well,
Yeah.
and you mentioned beets, and I'm not sure if my history is right, but I thought I remember that many people, everyone from Indians even into the cultures with the queens, would use different vegetables that would stain their lips,
Mm,
that they would use as like a lipstick that they didn't have back then. So it just makes sense. Why not use natural colors
yeah.
that, are not going to be a chemical?
Yeah.
So it took you about 4 years.
Yeah.
So how long have the products actually been out there now?
So I officially launched in May of 2021. So almost 2 years. We're coming up. Um, oh, and the other thing that I really wanted to say was I feel like there's some other brands that also know better. They want to do better, but just natural pigments are so hard to work with. So
Mm,
they end up mixing it with the regular synthetic dyes or other mineral pigments to get
mm,
that color to come out.
mm.
We actually figured out a way where we only use vegetables. There's no other like filler pigments in it.
Wow.
So that's like the breakthrough that I was super proud of figuring out.
Mm. That's amazing. Well, I love this just because you're utilizing your passion, health, and obviously this is an education piece. I mean, I had no idea. I mean, when you said how much lipstick do we eat in our lifetime? What was that number again? Because it was disturbing, and we just need to say it
It
one more
was
time.
4 to 10 pounds. Yes.
That is so disturbing to me. I mean, I'm just thinking I'm gonna be thinking about this, like, for the rest of the week. So, I think the education piece is really important because as women, as we talked about, we stress ourselves out. We work in hostile environments longer.
Yes.
Um, and so I think it's important for us to any aspect of our life that we can add in a healthy piece of it. That's great. So I know we've been posting your website. What is maybe your favorite lipstick or blend or color that you want to tell everyone about that they should be going on and checking out? I mean, you probably love them all, but do you have like a favorite?
Yeah, that's so funny. I do love them all. But I'm actually wearing this shade. It's called I'm Perfect. This is a peachy nude, I would say. And it's made out of or pigmented from turmeric, radish, beets, and spirulina, actually.
Oh
So
my
this
gosh, I
is
love it.
our bestseller, and it's just a very versatile day to day everyday lipstick. It's your lips but better. And the cool thing about these colors is that because it is natural pigments, it actually adheres a little bit to your pH. So this shade looks very different on a girlfriend that may have the same skin tone as me, which is so crazy. Yeah, but on my friend, it's like a pink tone, like her, like this model right
Uh-huh.
here. It's more pinky, but on me, it's like a deeper brown. So it
Wow.
definitely customizes to your warmth.
And I just have to say that, okay, so I'm going to be buying this because I want people to ask me and I just want to be able to say I am perfect to them. So even better, like I love the names of this because they're, what are you wearing? I am perfect. And they're going to be like, no, what are you wearing? I'm perfect. So I love that. And,
Thank
and I love the
you.
idea that, I mean, as you mentioned, you said there was turmeric, beets, and what was the other one in
Radish
there?
and spirulina.
Yeah. So how cool is it that this is all, and obviously these are things like that we can eat,
Yeah.
and we're not going to like eat chemicals. So I love this. So and for those of you who are thinking about lipstick, I mean, what a great way. We have a lot of women in business who watch this podcast, and so I'm going to challenge and give a charge to the women to go out and support you.
Thank
Grab some I Am Perfect lipstick and, tag you on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on all your stuff, because I think it'll be super, super fun to do that. As we're getting close to closing out the podcast, is there any tips that you can give to any women who are thinking, I want to follow my passion, I want to get out of this? What's some tips that helped you?
I think you definitely have to identify your tribe, your support group. Like I said before, I left my job a little bit way too early. And I don't think I would have made it through if not for my family and my friends who are my biggest supporters. So just mentally, it was just they got me through it, right? And then the other one is it's going to be a tough journey. Mental grit is definitely something that you're going to have. And somebody actually told me once that this journey will never get easier. So the sooner you accept things for what they are, meaning bad events that happen, the sooner you'll like get past it pretty much.
Mm,
So just
absolutely. Yeah.
prepare.
Absolutely. I
Prepare
love
your,
it.
yeah.
We always say we will work harder for ourselves as entrepreneurs than we will for anyone else. But what a great passion and mission that you have, not only to educate women on how to be more healthy, but delivering a healthy product. I mean, that's just bettering the world all the way around and women's health. So I absolutely love it. And thank you so much for being on the show and sharing us your passion and what's going on. We're excited to continue to support you and continue to explore all the amazing things all of us women are doing and contributing to our world. So, as I always say, live, love, laugh, and always be your authentic self.
Thanks for listening to Lead and Empower Her with your host, Dr. Julie Ducharme. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.